What's the most important thing when building a house? Things to take away, and an all-new dangerous take next. What's going on, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in for another DC Bible study. I am Brett Parks, also known as the Dangerous Crusader. This Bible study is titled Building Plan Rock vs. Sand. And those of you that know what rock is have not been living under one. And those of you that know what sand is probably lives by the beach. So I'm going to go over the top 3 most important parts when building a house. And we're going to count down. So number 3 is the roof. The roof's very important. The roof must be able to protect from outside elements like rain, snow, and the sun. Number 2 is the frame. The framing must be strong enough to support the weight of the roof, the walls, the floors. If the framing is not strong enough, the house will collapse. And the number 1 most important part when building a house is the foundation. The foundation is the most important part of the structure as it supports the weight of the house and keeps it from settling. The foundation is usually made of concrete, stone, or brick. Now, the most important thing to remember about the foundation is that it must be level. If the foundation is not level, the house will not be level, and it will settle and start to crack. So the foundation is by far the most important part when it comes to building a house. Some people say, well, why not sand, right? I know, I hear you saying it. I hear it. You're kind of ESPNing it to me. You like that, ESPN? It's ESP, but I say ESPN. I'm stupid. Well, sand is not an ideal material for foundation because it can shift and settle over time, leading to structural problems. So sand is very weak when it comes to foundations. If you have sand like this and there's a rainstorm or flood, the sand will start washing away and your foundation will start doing this. And then if you have a house on top, it'll start doing this, and then everything will crack and it won't be good. It'll be a bad day for you, a bad day for your home insurance, and a bad day for your home in general. So I'm going to read from you a passage out of Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27, and it's called The Wise and Foolish Builders. And this is very relevant to what we're talking about now. This is actually the reason why we're talking about this. Jesus says, "Therefore, anyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house, and it fell with a great crash." When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowd was amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. So Jesus says it right there. You know, you got a foolish man, you got a wise man. A wise man builds their house on the foundation of rock. But then you got the foolish man who builds on sand. And when troubles come, there's wind, flooding, streams rising, that sand just washes away. And the house is destroyed and it crashes. So, of course, Jesus isn't talking about an actual foundation of rock and an actual foundation of sand. Although he is correct at saying all these things, he's really talking about himself. So what does the foundation of rock signify in these passages? This passage is used as a metaphor of building a strong foundation of faith in Jesus. Those who follow Jesus' teachings are like a wise man who built his house on a rock, while those who do not are like a foolish man who builds his house on sand. When life's storms come, those who have built their lives on a strong foundation will be able to weather them without falling apart. If you have that faith in Jesus, that foundation of Jesus, and you're the house and Jesus is the foundation. Now, if you have that foundation of Jesus, when troubles come, you're going to be all right. You're still going to go through the troubles. Now, that's something very important. You're still going to feel the troubles. You're still going to be in that storm. But because you have that strong foundation of faith in Jesus, your house, you will be standing at the end of this natural phenomenon. Years ago, a group called Sonic Flood explains foundations in this way, and I'll paraphrase. For the neighborhood church and or this nation, if you build this house on a foundation of rock and try to replace the foundation with sand, for example, the house will crumble. This nation and the neighborhood church was originally built on the strong foundation of Christ and him crucified. And we are currently trying to replace our original and strong foundation with much weaker sand. This is the sand of materialism, self-love, postmodernism, morality, etc. Because of this, our national house and or the house of the neighborhood church is crumbling. If we don't stop what we're doing and begin reversing the sand insulation and replace it back with the rock of Christ, our nation and or churches will fall and will be no better than the Romans, the Canaanites, or even the Nephilim before the flood. We will be dead in the water. Our house will be no more. We must stand up and be bold in the face of powers and principalities, not just for our wives, but for our children and our children's children. Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." This isn't a game. Lives are in the balance. We are fighting for eternity. And if or when we decide to fight, we will not be fighting in vain. And that's my dangerous take. So here are some things to take away about this Bible study. Number one, the foundation you build your own home on is pivotal to the success of your family and their futures. We're not talking just about you here. We're talking about you and your family and their future, not just your own future. That's something all of us need to keep in mind, is that when you're building your house, when you have a family and you're building your house with that family inside that house, if you're building that house on a foundation of sand, morality, materialism, postmodernism, self-love, if you're building your house on those foundations, it's going to crack, it's going to crumble, and your house will collapse. Number two, self-love, materialism, morality, although intended for good, will ultimately be our downfall, not just in our house, but in the house of our nation and church. Like I said in the dangerous take, these things, they're well-intentioned, they say the road to hell is paved on good intentions. And it's awesome that we intend to be that way. But ultimately, it's all for nothing unless you have Christ and Him crucified in your heart. Unless you're building that foundation on the rock of Christ, none of that matters. And your house will crumble with your family inside it. And number three, we, as followers of Jesus Christ, need to stand up, be bold, and fight the powers and principalities of this world if we want our children and their children to live in a world of hope, mercy, forgiveness, and love. And remember, Edmund Burke once said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing." We have got to stay strong with the Lord. We have to be bold when it comes to our relationship with Jesus Christ. We need to be those people that are building these foundations and keeping the foundation on the rock of Christ. We see a lot of people taking that foundation out from under the house and replacing it with sand. And that's a recipe for disaster. And we cannot allow that to happen. So we need to do everything we can do as followers of Jesus Christ to make sure that foundation stays strong and that foundation continues to be on the rock of Jesus Christ. And that's all I have for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another DC Bible study. I'm trying to get as many subscribers as I can. So if you like this, if you thought it helped you out and you think it might help out a friend, go ahead and click that subscribe button, click that like button, click that share button, and share this to anybody who may be building their house on the foundation of sand or have friends that are in that area and you think they can help them as well. So thank you guys so much. Once again, I appreciate you all. And remember, be dangerous, love God, love people, love you.